Okay, so good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, everyone, depending on where you are joining us from. I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Making the Agri-Food Sector Circular, where 6 European projects funded under the Horizon 2020 Green Deal call will present their solutions and approaches to 2 of the biggest challenges facing the agri-food sector today: greenhouse gas emissions and food losses and waste. My name is Jérôme Friedrichs. I work for EURADA, the European Association of Development Agencies, and in my role as project officer at EURADA, I am also directly involved in 2 of today's 6 projects, Agri2Circular and Frontship. But before we learn more about the projects and the individual approaches, I would like to put this webinar in some context and give you a brief overview of the event. First things first, however, a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, and we will provide you with a link to the recording and presentation slides just after the event so that you can review the content and share it with your colleagues. Please remember to mute yourself when not speaking. Towards the end of this 90-minute event, you will have time to ask questions. Until then, we invite you to write your comments and questions in the chat, which our speakers may already be able to answer during the webinar. Otherwise, we will read them out to our speakers during the Q&A session. After the introduction, we will first hear some short 10-minute pitches on each project, which are furthermore divided into 3 thematic sections: reducing greenhouse gas emissions, minimizing food losses and waste, and demonstrating circular systemic solutions. As mentioned, following the presentations, there will be a Q&A session and roundtable discussion where I invite you to ask your questions by simply raising your virtual hand. And now for some context. And I really only want to briefly highlight 3 important aspects here, each related to one of our 3 thematic sections. The circular economy is on everyone's lips these days. Some malicious gossip has it even that the word has become another buzzword for policymakers in Europe and around the world. Regardless of whether that is true or not, the increasing turn towards the concept of the circular economy certainly reflects the understanding of the circular economy as a policy response to some of the many crises that we face today. We can name here climate change, the lasting socioeconomic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, loss of biodiversity and natural capital, and of course, the most discussed issue nowadays, the reduction of energy consumption from fossil fuels. In the EU, this realization is notably reflected in the Green Deal, the new Circular Economy Action Plan, and specifically for the agri-food sector, the Farm to Fork strategy. But implementing the circular economy is, of course, no easy task, and the regional and local levels have long been identified as suitable scales for the transition process. Here, multi-stakeholder approaches, as well as cooperation and exchanges, are vital, such as between European projects as actors in this transition process, and hence the rationale for today's webinar. 2 of our projects today have a specific focus on implementing that transition process in European regions by demonstrating circular systemic solutions within circular territorial clusters or ecosystems. Amongst others, they demonstrate circular solutions targeting the agri-food sector. The Farm to Fork strategy also aims to demonstrate innovative systemic solutions and has identified a number of most pressing challenges. Our 4 remaining projects aim to tackle 2 of these challenges specifically, the already named greenhouse gas emissions and food losses and waste. I will end this short introductory prelude by highlighting some key numbers that illustrate the urgent need to tackle these challenges facing the agri-food sector today. Not accounting for land use and land use change, agriculture is responsible for over 10% of the EU's greenhouse gas emissions, while food is contributing to about 17% of EU household emissions. And about 20% of all food produced in the EU is being wasted. Broadening the view to the global scale, that number is even higher, with about 1/3 of the food produced in the world being wasted. Clearly, there is much that needs to be done, and quickly. Thus, without further ado, I will stop sharing my screens, and I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, Lorraine Lebel, who is Innovation Portfolio Manager at Climate Kick and engaged in the Client Farms project, whose main aim is to demonstrate, evaluate, and improve technical, organizational, and financial solutions at the farm level. As a reminder to our speakers, we will run a timer to help us keep on schedule, and I will give you a friendly 1-minute warning in time. Lorraine, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Jérôme. I will start sharing my screen. And please let me know if you can see that full screen.
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you. So thanks a lot for the invitations. Very happy for this opportunity to present the Clean Farms project today, along with our sister projects. I'm Lorraine Lebel, based in Paris. I work for Climate Kick, a European organization that work on systemic innovation in the area of climate change and including agriculture. And in the Clean Farms project, we are responsible for developing synergies and also scaling approaches for sustainable agricultural solutions. So just for the project at a glance, we've started at the beginning of this year, 2022, and are going to work for 4 years with 33 partners in 14 European countries. And our ambition is to test and demonstrate systemic innovations in support of the Farm to Fork strategy. Our goal, in a few words, is to really co-develop and upscale systemically relevant solutions to reach climate neutral and climate resilient sustainable farming across Europe. And that means also achieving economically viable business models and systems through a multi-actor approach. So today, we are going to talk about emissions and circularity in the agri-food system. Regarding climate change, agriculture is part of the problem. You've mentioned it, but it can also be part of the solution. And so here, there were just a few pieces of information I wanted to share in the context of this discussion about circularity, reduction of emissions, and reduction of food waste in agriculture in particular. So here I'm relying on a policy brief from the UN from last year that says that when we talk about circular agriculture, we talk about agriculture that focuses on using minimal amounts of external inputs, closing nutrient loops, regenerating soils, and minimizing the impact on the environment. These are some practices that, if applied at a wide scale, can really reduce our resource requirements and the ecological footprint of agriculture, including regarding land use, the use of artificial fertilizers, production of waste, and overall reduction of emissions. So to achieve this model, there are different practices that can be used. For example, mixed farming, including combinations of crops and livestock practices, also organic farming, agroforestry, water management practices such as water reuse. And these are all components of a new model that can be developed. But so circular agriculture is one part of a wider system. And in that system, we see also that even at the beginning of the agri-food chain, there is an issue of food waste at production level, at farm level. So here, another study, this time from WWF UK last year, that highlighted that actually the carbon footprint of farm stage food waste is more important than expected, around 2.2 gigatons of CO2 equivalent per year. And this is both at harvest level and at post-harvest level, meaning we need to take into account emissions from enteric fermentation, manure management, methane emission, for example, from rice paddies, and also the production and the use of artificial fertilizers. And when we talk about post-harvest, or still at the level of the farm, we need to look at everything that's implied in the production of wasted food, but also the harvesting, the processing, etc. And two of the commodities that are the most impactful in terms of emissions, as many know, is the meat and animal products sector on the one hand, and cereal and pulses sector on the other hand. So now that we know that, what are the solutions? What can we do? There are several solutions on different levels, some more technical than others. But the important thing, and something we try to do in Clean Farms, is really assess these, activate them, combine them in a systemic way. I've mentioned it already, but when we talk about circularity on farm, we can apply mixed crop livestock systems, reuse water, produce biogas, use agroforestry, for example, in which all these systems, there can be benefits or byproducts, co-products that can be used to develop these circular approaches. But if we look more widely, these models, these practices, they have some constraints, they are labor intensive, and this means that a change of model is needed. This is not a model, circularity, that is easily applicable now that we have highly industrial and specialized farming systems in Europe. So that means that we need to look at supporting the transformation of markets and value chains, supporting policy changes, setting targets, and also supporting consumer behavior change, meaning also changing diets. And this is an interesting graph that you can go look at in the WWF study that looks at the different drivers. I won't develop more now. So in Clean Farms, what do we do to tackle that? I'll just take a drink of water to give some suspense. So our ambition, the overarching one, well, is to demonstrate that we can apply innovative systemic solutions and generate positive impact by 2030, meaning achieving climate neutrality for farms and farming systems, reducing GHG emissions, and also increasing carbon sequestration and storage. So the overarching ambition is to, on a systemic level, provide sufficient, safe, nutritious, healthy, and affordable food for all, improve the overall sustainability of food systems, and improve the resilience of food systems to shock and stress. So to do this, we have a demonstration approach that is based on the creation of what we call ISSS, meaning Innovative Systemic Solution Spaces, which are groups of farms, some of them demonstration farms, some of them replication farms, that are coming together along with other stakeholders that are surrounding them in the ecosystem, for example, funders, banks, but also suppliers, advisors, researchers, to work together and develop innovative approaches in a way that is adapted to their pedoclimatic context, their resources, and their constraints. So this is a big network of farms. I'll show the map just a bit later in Europe that are working together around 6 major themes to investigate and test solutions to develop a holistic approach to climate neutral and climate resilient farming. So for example, one of these network is looking at livestock practices, another one at crops and special crops, one at carbon sequestration, one at low carbon energy production and consumption on farm, fifth one on integral environmental sustainability, meaning also biodiversity management practices, pollution reduction, and the sixth one, which
this is your friendly 1-minute warning. I'm afraid we have a little mess up in our timer, but please go ahead.
Oh, okay. And then the final one, more an opening about new business models and governance approaches. So this is where we are on the map. You see a good mix of pedoclimatic context and production types. And already these farms, some of them are applying solutions, but mainly what they will do in Clean Farms is work together with partners to really set up strategies for each farm to have a transition with methodologies to measure impact the baseline and impact of the transition, and have access to a wide catalog of solutions to combine in these roadmaps. So these are examples here, combination of cattle and crops, agroforestry, reuse of pig manure, etc. Here is our work plan. We're working on this implementation of solutions, but also on how to scale them in Europe, including via new business models. And we're also working on synergies with other EU projects. And that's why we're very happy to be here today and hear more from our sister projects. Thanks a lot. I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I think we can all agree that the implementation of the circular economy is, while in theory a great objective, is very difficult. And thank you very much for your insights. So our next speaker then is Christina Vidal, who is a senior research scientist at Syntef Ocean, pitching us the ENOUGH project that develops technologies, tools, and methods to contribute to the EU's farm to fork strategy to achieve climate neutrality in the food industry. So, Christina, please go ahead.
Yes, I'll just share my screen. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Good. Yes, so I'm Christina. I'm from Syntef Ocean, which is a research institute in Norway. You all know about this, the Sustainable Development Goals, but the reason I want to share it is maybe you haven't seen, all of you seen this report, and I think it's a little bit interesting. It's a report on the progress we have so far related to this SDGs. And it's independent and quantitative. And there is also an interactive web page with a map where we can see, you see here, the darker the color, the further we have come on the goals. So the link you can see here as well. And if you look at this map, it's maybe not that bad, but if we then dive deeper into some of the goals, it doesn't look that bad, good. So in this, we see the red color is major challenges remain. And we can look at these four goals here, and we see quite a lot of red and also orange, and not many have green color. And all of these are related to the food value chain. And also I think this is also the reason why we are gathered here and why we are working on to find solutions within this with research and innovation. Here are some numbers you also heard in the introduction, but 1/3 of total greenhouse gas emissions are related to food emissions. And for the global numbers, we see that it's related to farm gate, to post-farm gate, and to land use change. 60% of food is refrigerated at some point during the value chain, but refrigeration also requires energy. And we also saw that before that 20% of food produced is wasted in EU. So all these together says that we need to keep quality high, the product quality high, but with less use of resources and low emissions. And that is something we are working with. And for some numbers for Europe, so this shows total emissions per stage of the European cold chain. And we see this starts with the processing. We have transport, storage, retail, and domestic. So cold chain also here again related to those value chains that need cooling or freezing or similar. We also have similar information as for the graph you saw on the previous slide. And from that one, we know that the emissions from post-farm gate are dominating and mostly originating from retail and transport, as you see in the graph. We also see from FAO report that total emissions for Europe have decreased between 1990 and 2019, which is good. Farm gate emissions have also decreased, but post-farm gate emissions have increased. This is another way of showing it, a graph showing emission sources where we have divided it into food loss, equipment, and food waste. So it's a plot using FAO data. So there is a need for reducing emissions by reducing emissions in systems and equipment. Here are some examples. It's adopting natural refrigerants, reduce energy demand, and increasing system efficiency. Also reducing food loss and waste is part of our project, that we, of course, raising consumer awareness, but especially for within enough project, it's more an efficient refrigeration of the food, and also better control of the food value chain. And this number I also think is for Europe, is 7% of food produced is lost due to the lack of refrigeration. So within European Green Deal, we have our project as well. So it's the Enough project. We started a year ago, and the project lasts also for 4 years. We have 30 partners you see on the map here, where the partners are located, and Sintef Ocean coordinates the project. Our solutions is to identify greatest potential for the reduction of emissions, develop, adapt, and apply new technologies, integrate and streamline processes, and demonstrate technologies to stakeholders. And it's important to say that it's both technological and non-technological solutions we are working with. This is an overview of the work packages. So work package 1 is working on mapping and predicting the greenhouse gases for different years. Work package 2 is on technology roadmaps and model. Work package 3 is on behavior and finance. And 4 and 5 are calculation tools and smart data systems. Work package 6 is demonstrators. I will come back to that a little bit also. And we have policy and strategies, and of course all these common there's communication management and ethics and cooperation work packages. So the goals is within the EU Farm to Fork strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, identify how to achieve climate neutrality for food businesses, improve integrated sustainability and meet societal goals, but last but not least, increase awareness among many different persons and businesses and policymakers and etc. It's also want to show that. Sorry. Yeah, the scope is from farm gate to consumer, which you also see in this table, where we present some of the solutions that we are working with within this to reduce the emissions. And production is not part of our project, but some of these things can be related to production also. So you see here examples is to use natural refrigerants in the refrigeration systems, high temperature heat pumps, heat recovery and thermal integration, thermal energy storage, sustainable packaging, etc. All the methods are then to raise awareness. We have different financial mechanisms, technological development and innovations, and also policies and regulations. So we have until now 18 industry demonstrators. These are divided into 2 groups. So it's the product categories, mainly related to processing them. It's meat, fish, dairy, and fruit and vegetables. And numbers here are the numbers of demonstrators within each of these tasks. And within the cross sectors, we have transport and last mile, storage and retail, and domestic. We also have one demonstrator, control demonstrator, that is related to some of the other demonstrators. But we're also looking for a few more demonstrators, and preferably within heating or cooking or or beverages that demonstrators that cover things that we don't already have. So please follow the project if you are not already, and you can find out more information on the web page, and there you can also subscribe to our newsletter. So thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much. Even before time, usually it's the other way around. I can only mention that the relevancy of your project has increased since the Russian war on Ukraine and the subsequent energy crisis that we're facing today. So thank you very much. I'm probably looking forward to hearing more about this aspect afterwards in the roundtable discussion. Our schedule is tight, so we are moving straight ahead to our third speaker, Amparo Jimenez Quero, and probably I mispronounced that, I'm sorry for that, who is a researcher at the KTH Royal Institute of Technology and work package leader in the Sisters project, which is focused on the development of bio-based packaging solutions. Amparo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will start sharing my screen. Just let me know if you can see the whole screen now. Is fine?
Yes, perfectly.
Thank you very much for the introduction once again, Jerome. So today I'm here to present another of the Sisters project, and in this case, the main name is Sisters. So we are quite good in this context. So I started for the last, and let's give that for the end. So Sister name is coming from this long name is Systemic Innovation for a Sustainable Reduction of the European Food Wastage. So our project is a 4.5 years project that we started last year in November. Is coordinated by ITIP, a technological center based in Zaragoza, Spain. And we are 18 different partners from 8 countries here in Europe. You can see here the list of the different partners, and together we tackle actors from all the food chain. So the food loss and waste, and has been already a bit discussed before me and with the other projects, globally represent 33% of the total edible food is wasted, which represent 1.3 billion tons of loss and waste per year. If we focus in the European region, we produce every year almost 90 million tons of this material, which account to total 20% of the total food produced. If we put that into numbers, into money, is representing almost 150 billion euros that is wasted from our production. So the problems we have identified within Sister, and they, of course they are very consistent with what other projects have tackled. Here is based in different parts of the value chain of the food production. In the production first, we have identified a food surplus due to imprecise market demands. So the farmers, they finish producing more than what they can really put into the market. Then there is problem into the logistic transition of it, meaning there is an efficient handling and transporting of the foods. So we can think about the cold chain, etc. That is not always respected, and then is translated into this food that is not anymore available for human consumption. Of course, there is problems into the processing part. We have identified an efficient performance of bio-based food packaging. We know the European Commission is pushing with more regulations and more plastic, or let's say like conventional packaging, into bio-based ones. But the problem is still the performance of this novel packaging is not preserving as it should the food that we are containing on it. There is also, of course, problem into the marketing part. There is an unsustainable practices in the retailer and in the whole sellers, meaning there is a lot of food that is reaching let's say, the shops or the restaurant, etc., but still finish being wasted because they are not handled in the proper way. And at the end of the change is the consumption. So the consumers, we also generate part of this food wastage, and it's about misinterpretation of labels in some cases, but also we exceed expiration dates in some of the products that we are consuming. So now we have identified the problems and we want to give some solutions to these problems. That's the point, right? Here, and you can see for the production problems, what we are aiming to generate during the sister project is a short-chain platform for primary producers. And with that, we mean we are putting in place a application where farmers or any kind of primary producer that they are overproducing a specific food items, if they is not sell directly into the expected market gap, they can also contact people in the region so they can place that food so it's not wasted anymore. We are also working into the logistic part. As we say, like, there is a lot of problem during the transportation of the food items. So we are working in developing new smart containers. So it's bulk box and store box. And what we are working is into implementing and creating novel sensors inside this container that they can handle better all the different signals that will give an alarm if something is going bad during the transportation. So instead to just open the container and seeing like the things are bad and cannot be sold anymore, we can handle the problem and we can save this food there. In the part of the processing, we are working actively in the bio-based food packaging. So we are trying to create a packaging, and I will come to that just 1 minute after explaining what we are doing, but we are trying to reach a level of a more home compostable packaging, meaning like we will generate less of this plastic waste into our own bins or trash. For the marketing, we are working in developing a seal of excellence. So we are creating a new label where we can see like the whole retail practices is implemented within the European regulations. So we are aiming to have this kind of labels by the end of the project put in some of the products that we are using as prototypes. And during the consumption, we are also developing a QR dynamic labeling. So us as consumer, we can always tag the QR and understand if this product has been produced in a sustainable manner. So we can, let's say, increase the awareness in sustainability by giving the consumer more information than what they have already about the product that we are putting into the market. As I say, we work a lot in my case, because I'm coming from an university and we are technology developers. We are working actively in the production of novel and bioactive food packaging. So the idea is like we work directly with primary producers. They give us food loss and we produce or we generate an extraction process where we can obtain molecules that they are valuable as food additive, as food packaging additive. So we will add these molecules into the formulation of the packaging. So we will decrease the plastic amount that we put in the packaging, but we will also add functionals there. So the idea is to extract antioxidant and antimicrobial molecules. I put some example of different leaf waste that is generated during the production. In the case of the artichoke, the leaf outside the artichoke that they are discarded, or the cauliflower, and this kind of things, we will generate that and we will create additive for the packaging that will preserve and we will give longer shelf life to the product that we are containing into the packaging. So the whole idea is trying to test this kind of methodologies with different approach for the extraction, trying to keep it the most sustainable and green as well. So we want to work with a lot of extraction based on water. And the whole idea is like later on we will make a compatibility of this additive with the different PLA formulations that we are working with to reach that into the pilot scale, because the whole setup of the bio-based packaging will be tested into a TRL 7 to 8. So the idea is to really bring that very close to the market and bring also a new alternative to the primary producers.
You have reached your 1 minute mark,
Yes.
but we are very good on time, so
Okay.
don't feel pressure to end in 1 minute sharp.
No worries, because I'm going into the impact and then I think I will be done very soon. So I say the problems, I say the solution, and now what we expected as impact to reach at the end of the project. So we are aiming to be in contact and to really implement the different application, as I say, for the producer, 200 different primary producers that we have already started contacting from different parts of Europe. We will use 3,000 kilograms of food for the transportation test of this box, as we say, with the sensors. So we will be doing real testing in transporting that within Europe. We will work with 1,500,000 kilos of food into the packaging test. So we will see if for real this new food packaging is working well. We work with 30 marketing centers to be assessed for the labeling that we have said about the sustainable production of the product. And we, of course, we will tackle the final actor in this chain, that is the consumer. So we will be doing different surveys during the project, understanding if this approach that we are presenting in Sister is interesting from the point of view of a consumer. So here there are some numbers about what we aim to reach. Of course, we want to decrease the food loss and waste. We want to increase the incomes of the primary producers, but of course we want indirectly to reduce until 20-25% of the CO2 emission that they are related. And we want to really bring to the society more sustainable practices that they also understand, so they can really value for the future. So the whole idea is like we will reach around 27% reduction of loss and waste food, and we will decrease 20% the CO2 emissions in the case of a study that we are studying within the sisters. So that was all. Please, if you are interested in the project, here you have the link for the different social media and also for the webpage. So we will be very glad if you start follow. And if you have any questions, you can also send them to the different media. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Amparo. I think there's, particularly with Agri-2Circular, there might be some very interesting synergies in our two projects. As a quick reminder, you mentioned as well for our audience, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat. Maybe our speakers are already able to answer them. Otherwise, we can raise them during the Q&A session. Halfway through, free to go. Next, we have Anna George, the Senior Project Manager at Indecom and Project Coordinator of the ZeroW project that develops systemic innovations for zero food waste. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jerome, and thank you, everyone. You made my life easy today because all the projects so far, Sister, Enough, Client Farm, you scoped so well the problem. So for me, it's only to present the solutions we have in ZeroW, which will make my life easy and my presentation shorter. So thank you. Few words about Zero in general. We are an innovation action, and just like the 3 other projects before us, we have 4 years duration, 46 partners, 17 countries, and the same goal under which we are funded: societal challenges. In our project, we apply circular economy principles such as reduction, prevention, and valorization of food waste to different value chains, incorporating also system innovations approach to ensure smooth and just transition to zero food loss and waste system. How are we doing that? We demonstrate the reduction of food loss and waste through 9 living labs, which we call Systemic Innovation Living Labs, or SEALs. Those span the entire farm-to-fork value chain from pre-harvest to consumption and implement the prevent, reduce, valorize circular economy principles. Some of our SEALs focus on food and lost waste prevention. Our first one has an objective to deliver and pilot an open and data-driven IT-based solution for capturing food loss and waste-related data throughout the entire supply chain. And this solution aims to empower the stakeholders to make smarter and more sustainable decisions when dealing with food loss and waste prevention and reduction. Our second living lab aims to prevent food waste and the use of unsustainable packaging at retail and consumer level. It achieves that through the use of intelligent, functional, and sustainable packaging solution that eliminates the need of using absorbent pads for retaining the fish eggs, so that the whole packaging will be made from bio-based and biodegradable materials. It will also include the freshness indicators, intelligent labels, providing visual information about the state of the packaged food. Additionally, it will demonstrate the use of software for reading freshness color changes of this intelligent label and transforming them into remaining shelf life to allow the retailers to better manage their stock and to reduce the food waste. Our 0W Living Lab 3 will demonstrate innovations for food loss prevention and reduction and the pre-harvest and harvest stages of fruit and vegetables greenhouse farms through novel and remote sensing solutions enabling accurate crop monitoring, fruit ripeness assessment, and yield estimation. It will provide automated produce quality evaluation and estimation of substandard produce at pre-harvest and harvest stages, and data-driven optimization of combined harvest scheduling and short-term predicted downstream demand. The next 0W demonstrator will prevent and reduce the food loss through data-driven production process control and optimization. 3 different computational models will be developed to support the controlling of very specific product and process parameters that drive the food loss due to product non-compliance. 2 will be based on the use of portable near-infrared technology and the development of corresponding chemometrics to get the target variables, applying novel artificial intelligence techniques. The third one is an intelligent data analysis of multiple process parameters captured by more standard classical sensors, again by using novel AI tools and technology. We will also demonstrate food waste reduction measures at consumer level. This living lab is based on the understanding that reducing food waste and the environmental burden of our food system begin and end with us and the choices we make as consumers. The objective is therefore to develop recipes and menus with low expected food waste, high nutritional score, and low environmental impact of underlying supply chains. The demonstrator also aims to develop levels and scores to inform and trigger consumer behavioral change. In 0W, we will try to demonstrate the food loss and waste reduction also through improving the efficiency of food bank networks. Food banks play an important role in addressing food waste and food insecurity. However, the food donations that make up the food supply have a very irregular and uneven flow, resulting in inefficiencies and in utilizing the donations. This living lab aims to help matching supply and demand in food banks supply chains to contribute to improved food waste reduction strategies while still addressing the food bank's goal to address the food insecurity. We will be developing several models and tools that support the decision making and at food banks and at companies that are donating food to food banks, and also we will be developing a handbook of possible food waste reduction strategies that food banks can adopt. Adding the valorization circular economy principle in our next living lab, we will endeavor to demonstrate the use of mobile food processing unit as a service to reduce food loss and waste. We will investigate the potential of this mobile food processing unit to optimize the valorization of agri-food products available in regions where larger volumes currently remain underutilized or used for energy generation, while opportunities exist for turning them into higher added value products. To complicate the background, transporting of such food loss and waste to processing facilities that are available is not cost efficient either. This living lab will tackle these lock-in effects by using a mobile, versatile processing unit with high throughput. It was developed through FOX project, another Horizon 2020 project, and through ZeroW, we will offer it as a service to allow this food loss and waste biomass to be turned into healthy and tasty, minimally processed juices, purees, smoothies, or other ready to drink or to eat products, or as nutritionally attractive intermediate products in food processing and food service. Through ZeroW, we will try to find a way to valorize another source of food loss and waste, the so-called Agri-Food. This systemic innovation living lab will address the problem identification of Agri-Food or non-compliance to retail requirements at a later stage, thus reducing the possibilities for alternative valorization. The living lab process will start with classification of vegetables and fruit at an early stage by non-destructive analysis applied to a single fruit or vegetable or to a whole lot. It will end up with promotion and retail side of the quality products with known shelf life, providing market strategies for Agri-Food and optimization of logistics and storage management. There will be 3 final products delivered by this living lab, and there will be multi-sensor platform with capacity to analyze and process around 300,000 fruits per hour, and with possibility of classification in 3 different outputs based on quality, shelf life parameters, and organic and inorganic origin. The other one will be portable mass spectrometry, able to identify organic tomato samples. And the third one, data service platform to control the input produce. Finally, we will look into more high value transformation of food waste and more specifically algae production medium. The focus of this systemic innovation living lab is to develop a pre-treatment solution within the food retail sector based on the process of dehydration that will support the valorization of the food waste to obtain culture medium suitable for microalgae cultivation. Such microalgae are then aimed to be used by the cosmetics or sustainable packaging industry. To guarantee the expected result, the living lab will optimize the in-store and in-house, in-warehouse pre-treatment process. It will develop the proper container to transport the outputs between the stores and the microalgae production facilities.
Also for you, your 1-minute warning.
Study the best logistic procedures for transportation with the least possible environmental and economic impact, and develop the most convenient process to grow the microalgae. The 9 living labs you just saw are the focal point for ZeroW project, around which we build the rest of the project's important activities. We will develop economic models for food loss and waste, which can inform decision-making on policy level. We will also build a zero food loss and waste data space, big data infrastructural services, and AI application to support data-driven solutions for food loss and waste reduction. We do this applying a systematic approach for delivering and evaluating our innovations. Throughout our work, we plan and assess the environmental sustainability of the solutions, and the invaluable data gathered through the work of the living labs, the models, and the assessment will contribute to the policy recommendations to just transition pathway to near zero food loss and waste by 2050, and regional scaling up solutions for food loss, waste reduction, and innovation. Last but not least, we will ensure the sustainability of the ZeroW innovations by providing exploitation and commercialization strategies. Throughout this project plan comprising demonstrators and assessment, by the end of the project, we are aiming to achieve 25% reduction of food loss and waste demonstrated by our systemic innovation living labs. Our ambitious goals include also halving the food loss and waste by 2030 and the long-term impact of near zero food loss and waste. That was Zero W in a nutshell. For more information and current news about the project, you can visit us on our website and LinkedIn page. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Anna. I think one aspect that is extremely relevant, not only for your project, but all of our projects, is the data that feeds and is at the foundation to the development of our solutions. Something maybe to discuss in the roundtable discussion as well. Second to last is Fuensanta Monzo, Head of Research and Development Project at CETEC and Project Coordinator of Agri-Food Circular, the project that develops the first recycling value chain for post-industrial packaging multi-layer films and tackles the upcycling of fruit and vegetable waste through advanced extraction techniques. Fuensanta, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for inviting us to this event and thank you for organizing it. Very interesting presentations. So I'm going to share the screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, in the presentation mode?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to present Agri-Food Circular project. It is an European project. And we are mainly deploying a circular territorial solution in the region of Murcia, in the southeast of Spain. Why in Murcia? Well, Murcia is called the orchard of Europe, and the agri-food industry is really important in the economy of the region. There are more than 300,000 hectares of production of food, of vegetables and fruit production. And there is an important industry behind to process these fruit and vegetables. While processing and packaging these food and vegetables to transform them into canned good, juice, jams, some waste is produced, mainly palm, fruit peels, vegetable leaves. And in Agri-Food Circular, we are trying to find a solution to upcycling this kind of waste. Mainly, we are working with broccoli waste, waste from apple, cauliflower, citrus, artichokes, and grape. How are we upcycling this waste? Well, mainly we are developing a cutting-edge technology to obtain high-value added products from this agri-food waste. Mainly, we are working in green extraction routes and in purification technology to obtain high-value products such as dietary fiber, phenolics and carotenoids to be used in the food industry as ingredients in the nutraceutical industry and in the cosmetic industry. And also we are developing a technology to produce bioplastic of the kind of PHBV. So the idea is transforming this food, this organic waste, into high value added products. Another important waste that we are working on, and that is also waste generated by this agri-food industry, is plastic. We are working on two different waste. One, it is a waste that comes from aseptic bags that are used to transport concentrates. And also we are working with a multi-layer film that is used for soil disinfection. In both cases, we are dealing with a multi-layer waste that at the moment hasn't got a proper recycling solution, and that is going directly to the landfills. So we are working on finding a solution for this multi-layer waste. We are working in mechanical and enzymatic recycling, and also developing biotechnological routes to be able to abstain from this plastic waste, building blocks and carotenoids to be used in the cosmetic industry, and also bioplastic and high barrier plastic to be used again in the food industry as barrier packaging, and in the agricultural industry as agricultural films. What are the benefits of upcycling this plastic waste? Well, we are reducing the use of fossil fuels sources, and we are also contributing to reduce the transport of raw materials from regions that are far away from Murcia, and also in reducing the use of energy-intensive chemical processes. So we are contributing to reduce the emission of carbon dioxide. Here you can see some of the Agro2 circular expected impact. We are contributing, as I said before, to reduce the consumption of primary materials, fossil, biomass, and metal ores in more than 13,000 kilotons. We are contributing to improve sustainability and circularity, creating cluster economic sectors, and contributing to improve natural ecosystem management and valorization of local resources. And also we are contributing in decreasing 20,000 kilotons of carbon dioxide emissions. And the impact of Agro2 circular goes also in finding 50 new key exploitable results and 30 new circular business models, with a turnover of 166 million euros, creating jobs in the short term, in the medium term, and through replication. And also we are contributing to create 30 business ideas and establishing 300 local alliances. Another important tool that we are developing in Agro2 Circular is the data integration system that will contribute and support the solution in a way of finding a solution for traceability of the waste and for as a predictive tool. In a way that it will be an important support and help to be able to fulfill the highly demanding certification and the requirement that are required by the cosmetic and food industry. And I would like also to highlight that to be successful in implementing this circular and territorial solution, it is of high importance to involve all actors of the value chains, because otherwise it will be impossible to implement this kind of circular solutions. Also, we have to involve the technology developers, university, research institute, and companies, medium-sized, small-sized, and large companies. But also we have to involve all kinds of expertise to be able to assess the impact of the project in society and in the environment, and also to foresee possible regulatory and economic barrier that we can find to implement this solution. in Agri-Food Circular partner, we have 41 partners that covers all these necessary disciplines. We are talking of experts in economy, social science and humanities, communication, dissemination and exploitation, policymakers, standardization bodies, civil society representatives, and also public administration. And finally, I would like to share that as the final part of the project, we are showing 10 demonstrators of the Agri-Food Circular at scale technology. This demonstration will be carried out in Murcia, but we are working on evaluating and assessing the possibility of implementing this solution also in another agro territories in Europe, Italy and Lithuania. So we are working on transforming this solution or replicating this solution in these two territories in a way that we are improving the impact of the solution at European level. So at the end of the project, we are demonstrating an upscale solution, and we are trying to set the basis to implement this solution also in another territories of Europe. And finally, if you want to know more about Agri-Food Circular, to find out what are our partners, the duration of our project, it is a 3-year project, what program, the program that is financing the project, the European program that is financing the project. You can find out more about us in our website. You have there our website link. Okay.
Thank you
and
very
I'm
much.
open to any question about our project.
Thank you very much, Sandra. I for sure have been aware of the value that lies in cauliflowers and artichokes in particular before today, as already 2 of our projects are making use of them. Thank you very much. Last but not least, we have Daniele Turati, project and technical manager at Novamont, who are also one of the project partners in 0W. And Daniele is also the work package leader of the food and feed strand of the Frontier project that contributes to the furthering the green and just transition of the Polish Łódzkie region by demonstrating circular systemic solutions. Daniele, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jérôme, for the kind presentation. Sorry, I have a problem with share the presentation, unfortunately. Just a
Take your time. Worst case scenario, we could also share the slides for you.
Hopefully now it works. Yeah, sorry for that. Do you see now?
Yes, we can see your screen, so probably, yes, now perfect.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for that. Thank you, Jérôme. I'm the last YouTube live after the previous presentation. So hello everybody from Novamont in Italy. And I would like to describe the Friendship project that aims to create a territorial cluster of circular initiatives to accelerate the transition to a more green, resilient economy that is able to provide sustainable responses to the need of the involved region. So the idea is to create a new solution that will be implemented and demonstrated first in Łódzkie region in Poland, and after that will be replicated in other regions in Italy, in Netherlands, in Portugal, and in Greece. So at the end of this demonstration. The project is funding with the European Research and Innovation Program Horizon 2020. The duration is 4 years, so we are more or less at the end of the first year of the project. So we have some preliminary results that will be completed during the next 3 years. The coordination of this project is coordinated by Keyflex, a company that has a production in Poland, and there are 34 partners from 9 European countries. So it's a very heterogeneous consortium. There are R&D centers, companies, university, municipalities, and so on. So the idea of the project is to ensure a green transition through decarbonization and the territorial regeneration through replicable circular systemic models that are well interconnected with each other. So there is exchange of information, exchange of materials. So in some way, the waste of one circular system solution is a raw material for another one. So there is a very strong circularity in this approach. We have 4 systemic solutions that are related to the wood packaging, food and feed, water and nutrients, and plastic and rubber waste. We will focus today on food and feed. It is called CSS number 2, that is more related also to the agricultural sector. The numbers of this second circular systemic solution are reported here. I don't want to enter into the details of these numbers, but the numbers are very promising by the 2030. So by the end of the project and the year later. But the aim of this CSS2 is the demonstration of and the valorization of agricultural feedstock, the food industry waste, and urban by-waste into a variety of eco-design byproducts, bioproducts that are, for example, free fatty acid, bioplastics, biolubricants, and so on. I would like to enter into the details of our role in this project. The first activities is related to the implementation of these innovative agro-industrial value chains that is carried out in collaboration with local farmers. With establishment of oil crops with a very low impact in terms of water consumption, but also in terms of use of soil, because the idea is to implement these specific crops in marginal lands that can be also slightly polluted, so that are not that cannot be used for food application. From oils and byproducts from seeds, we will obtain biodegradable biolubricants, bio-oils for the insulation material plants, and also high-value animal feed. The second main activity that we have in this Friendship project is the valorization of waste. In particular, we would like to valorize the food industry waste that always is rich in fermentable sugars, and so that can be processed through our proprietary technology to obtain building blocks that are suitable for the realization of compostable bags. And the idea is to use these compostable bags for promotion of good practices for the organic fraction of municipal solid waste collection, and the valorization through the industrial composting plant to produce high quality compost that can be used as soil conditioner in agriculture. In this slide, I would like to present our value chain, and in this value chain, I don't want to enter into details of this slide, but the idea is the project is well interconnected with our value chain, because we start from crops and also from scraps and also from byproducts or waste, And through the combination of biotechnological process and chemical process, we are able to obtain biodegradable and biodegradable biopolymers that mixed with specific technology with other biomaterials and additives can produce a final pellet that can be used for the production of final products that has as natural end of life the organic recycling. So in that sense, what we would like to promote is a solution using the natural biodegradability of our product. We have some example already mentioned in organic collection, waste collection, but also we have some other example in agriculture. So the idea is to use the mulch film, for example, to solve the problem of microplastic accumulation in soil, because the biodegradable material is not accumulated in soil. Other examples are in biolubricants, for example, because biolubricants based on vegetable oils, if, for example, are used in agricultural machine, when are dispersed in soil, are not accumulated because are fully biodegradable, so are not accumulated in soil. Another activity that we are carrying out, as I mentioned before, is the organic waste separate collection project. So we start with this type of project in a very big city in Italy, in Milan, that is one of the largest city in Europe. So we started this project in 2012. With the door-to-door collection of organic waste, and at the end of this project, after a few months from the beginning, we were able to obtain a collection of 100 kg per year per capita with a very high purity compost that can be used also for agriculture. And this is an interesting case study because we use compostable bags as a key element for a high quality compost, to obtain a high quality compost. Just a few numbers about this. We started, as you can see here in the picture, we started in 2000.
Also for you, your friendly 1-minute reminder.
Thank you, Jérôme. We started with approximately 9% of waste that was composted, and after a few years, in 2015, we moved to approximately 40%. And this helps Milan to increase the overall recycling material in Milan, that we are approximately 50%, and now we are more than 60%. And also the quality. So after 18 months from the beginning of the project, we reduced from 4 to 3.4% of non-compostable material in the waste, and with a diversification in social housing and city center. And this data will be used in Poland to replicate this model in Poland, and also to implement a right communication to citizens to how to implement this good model. So I have finished just a few links and about our projects. So there are here we have some channel to be in contact with us and to be updated about the results that we have. And we continuously have during this project. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Daniela. That was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I'm sure many questions might have come up. We now come to the last part of our webinar, which is the roundtable discussion and Q&A session. So I invite you all to raise your virtual hands if you have questions. But I would also like to invite our speakers to raise discussion points, for example, about future possibilities for cooperation. Since this is now the first for all projects about the 1 year mark that we have. So I think this is the perfect time to dig into deeper cooperation opportunities. Are there any questions from the chat? No. There has only been one question, but this has already been answered, I think. Would any of the participants would like to raise questions, or of the speakers? I take that as a no. Then I would like to just ask 2 or 3 questions before we wrap up the session. So we just saw that Friendship, for example, is valorizing oil crops, and that made me wonder how the identification of farms in the Client Farms project worked, and whether oil crops are one of the products that are being valorized in Client Farms. Lorraine, maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, thank you for the question. So in terms of selecting the farms participating in the project, that has been kind of a mix between a voluntary basis of groups of farms already engaged in some innovation or transformation processes, and also leadership from some experimental farms connected to for example, research institutes or leaders in the value chain, industrial partners such as Danone or Nestle, to have a good mix and diversity over Europe. We, in terms of representation of different crops, we are leaning towards a bit more the meat and dairy sector and cereal crops, but we do have olive tree ISSS, so farm group in Portugal, if I'm not wrong. So that could be a potential connection, maybe.
Thank you very much. We have a question in the chat from Jacques-Eric. If the health agency agrees to change some consumption dates for 1 day without any risk on human health, what will be the impact of consumer waste? Who would like to respond to this question? Or maybe Jacques, you could elaborate who you would like this question to be answered by.
Well, I know there has been sorry, I switch on my camera. There has been different presentation based on waste and consumer waste, and we know that consumer check on the dates, and if there's 1 day more to keep this on the fridge, what would be the impact on waste production?
Who of our speakers would like to come back to this?
I can say something about this health food agency. We are one part of our project is to prepare a dossier for EFSA, an EFSA dossier for the product we are obtaining from the waste, in order to make sure that everything we are developing will be suitable for introducing this product in cosmetic, food and nutraceutical products. So one of our tasks is assessing that part.
I think one other aspect that might be related to this is the competitivity of solutions that are based on food waste, exactly due to this reason. And I think, Amparo, your project, you are thinking about or have thought about this a bit more deeply, if I'm not correct.
Yeah. I mean, I think I understood the question like Jacques made is if we can increase in 1 day the expiration date, right? By using the food waste as some kind of additive. I think what we are testing, or what we have to really prove, is like the addition of the different novel additive we are incorporating in the food packaging really lead to preserve the food longer. So I mean, because the rules are the rules, the food has to have a very specific properties before being discarded. So what our work together with some projects here is like finding these solutions. One of the solutions will be sister ones, like is extracting additive that preserve it longer. So in that case, of course, the decrease in food waste will be huge, because I mean, just by 1 day increase in the shelf life of a food product, I mean, the impact in just Europe will be, I don't know how many tons, I cannot talk about numbers, but that will be very, very important. But the thing, like you pointed, is what we are producing now, which is novel and bio-based, will really lead into that. So that is what we are proving. And that's why we are all here working in the different projects, is because we want to really bring novel solutions, right? So I hope that in some years we can be saying for sure, like, yes, we can increase that in 1 or 2 days or 5 days with our solutions.
In Zero, we have another approach of the same problem. And I think it's very complementary to what Amparo said. In our Living Lab 2, we are developing intelligent level that is reading the chemical compounds in the food, and in this way provides visual indicator to the retailer and to the consumer what is the status of the food, is it edible or not. And in this way, we have a more precise indicator than the best before use by date. In the case of fish, use by date. So you will know for certain, is this safe to eat or you should discard it.
Christina, you would like to add to that?
Yes, I'm just wondering, because there's also was said just before that it's the difference between kind of when you shouldn't eat it anymore and best before. And I think there has been a change there with, for example, with milk, and so that you can drink it also a week after if it's good chilled. I wonder if is that kind of old news and implemented everywhere, or is it also part of some of the other projects here as well to kind of increase that to more products?
Can I add just a comment from our side, from Friendship Project? The valorization, so the reduction of waste is the first, I think, goal that we have to achieve, and the project are working on that. But when we have a waste from food, I think the good way is to put them into composting plants, so to have organic recycling. But it's important not only to have organic recycling, but also have a high quality of compost at the end, without any contamination of not biodegradable materials. Otherwise, we can create some microplastic that can enter into the cycle, and it's not a good solution. So I think the first point is to reduce waste, as you mentioned before. And the second point is, when we have waste, to valorize it in a proper way.
Would somebody else like to add to that?
Just a small comment, and maybe someone of you also are looking at that already, but you can also use, of course, there's some regulations, use the waste for growing insects, which then can be produced to high value products as well. So I guess there are many possibilities to use the waste or the rest raw material.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. If you allow me one last question before, Christina, you highlighted the effect of energy savings in your project, and of course the issue of today is the energy crisis, and I am wondering how that affects your project and the work, and that maybe also for the other project as well. But since you highlighted that.
Yeah, one example is thermal energy storage, which a few years ago was something that's kind of nice to have. Everybody has thermal energy storage in their home. They have hot water tanks and so, but looking at it in a wider and then different temperature ranges, maybe at very high temperature or very low temperature, was a few years ago maybe not that relevant. And when talking about energy storage, it's common to talk about batteries, electric batteries, but there is an alternative. And I think now, and it can be more cost efficient to have thermal energy storage than electric, the batteries. And I think now it can, it seems like it's very larger interest in this. So that's one example. Yeah.
Thank you. There has been one more question from the chat from Stuart. I'm just going to read it out. In terms of food waste metrics, are there good examples of how to measure accurately where along the value chain the waste is occurring? This would help us in targeting solutions. Anna, maybe since you are maybe the first one to address here.
Yes, this is one of the objectives of ZeroW. So as Stuart rightly pointed out, this is one of the biggest issues we have. There is no reliability of the data. Everyone measures different thing. Everyone measures using different definition. So in ZeroW, we are applying again a systematic approach to that. We have a living lab, one that spans through the entire farm to fork supply chain from pre-harvest to consumer level, collecting data, data space work package that provides the infrastructure and governance rules for this information exchange. We have a model that is built based on this data to facilitate the policy making process. So this will be a result to be expected from our side, and perhaps in year 3 and year 4 of our project, we can share a bit more details from this perspective.
So Stuart is satisfied, I believe. Debolina, how are you handling the greenhouse gas emissions in different projects, specifically in terms of inventory data collection? I will leave that up to our speakers to choose who wants to reply to this. Maybe Lauren, since reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is, of course, one of your biggest goals.
Yeah, I think in terms of GHG emissions, well, both emissions and carbon sequestration and storage in clean farms, one of the big objectives of the project and one of the biggest challenges as well is developing a set of methodologies and models that can be aligned across all our groups of farms, so that they can all have a baseline, know where they start from, and measure the impact of the implementation of solutions along the 4 years of the project and maybe later on. So this is something we're working on. There is a possibility of combining different models, but I'm not an expert on that. So I can get back to you, liaise with my colleagues, and give more information later on.
Sorry, Christina, please go ahead.
Yes, we are also, that's also when part of our project, and it's very important now in the beginning to find out, and it has been a large discussion on how to, which methods to use, and if you're going to top down or bottom up models and so on. Also within our project, it has been a bit difficult to find some information or to decide, but I think we have, with discussions, come a good way. So the information will be shared on this as well. But it's also, everybody is talking about the 1990 levels and so, but it seems like we don't have very good data from 1990 level, but we still need to kind of find what we have. And so.
Front center in Daflowitz, Daniela, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment.
Sorry, Daniela. Front center first. Sorry for interrupting you there. You are muted.
Sorry, I was muted. No, just to share that one of our tasks and important tasks in the project is to evaluate the solution, the whole technologies we are going to demonstrate at the end of the project. So one of our partners is an expert in life cycle assessment. So they are going to evaluate the environmental impact of every solution. So one of our partners will help us to implement measures and will give us recommendations to improve the energy saving of the different technologies we are developing in the project. And there will be like a public deliverable showing these recommendations.
Thank you, Daniel. I think you have the last word for today.
Yeah, thank you, Jerome. Yeah, a very quick comment from my side. So we have different possibility to measure the LCA improvement, but in our CSSs we have a common expert that is the University of Athens that is try to use the same metrics for the evaluation of LCA improvement. So the first of all is to try to create a baseline, a correct baseline, because it's not always easy to define which is the current situation, which is the correct, matrix to measure the implementation. And the second point, I think that is very important in Friendship is the fact that we have also the CO2 reduction. And in particular, we have in some part of the project, the production of CO2, the capture of CO2, and the use of CO2 in other in industrial process in order to, in some way, to close the loop and to try to use inside the project the CO2 that are captured by some implementation of technologies.
There's one last question in the chat from Kasit. Which product do you use for biodegradable packages? Maybe also for Santa and Daniele, just a few sentences about this.
Yeah, so we in Friendship, we don't realize biodegradable packaging, but as general consideration, we have several, as Novamont, we have several products for biodegradable packaging. Depends on the application, because we can tailor-made in order to protect the products inside the packaging and to guarantee the right barrier to the oxygen, for example, and that is required by different application. But yes, we can have different solution for different application.
Santa, would you like to add?
Yes. Well, we are developing a bioprocess to produce biodegradable plastic of the kind of PHBB with a high content of hydroxyvalerate. And then we are working on compounding of obtaining different compounds, grade of compounds, using this plastic, biodegradable plastic. And we are also working on trying to give some gas barrier properties to these compounds. So yes, similar to you, Daniel, we are mainly we are working on plastic, biodegradable plastic.
Thank you. And I hate to be that person, but I think we need to wrap up the session here. Stuart, and this is for everybody, if you have more questions, please feel free to contact us. Best at friendship@eurada.org. We can disperse all questions that you still might have. You have the communication addresses, I think, of all projects in the chat by now. And that really leaves me just to thank you all for participating today, and especially our 6 speakers. I think we can all look forward to further discussions among us. And with that, I wish you a great rest of the day. And thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you.
To you.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you very much.